Record. Should work. Yeah. So can you describe for those who are going to see a bit about when you started, what was the original intention with NLP and hypnosis, and what has been your journey so far in general?
Yeah, I started it was in 2020 during that thing I don't need to talk about because we all know what happened in 2020. And I honestly was doing sales, cold calling sales, and I was beating my head against the wall. I was really starting to be critical of myself, and it started to erode who I was. And I honestly was just so sick of reading sales books that I picked up a book that I ordered a few months before from Tony Robbins. I knew of Tony Robbins. I knew things about him, and I knew about NLP. I just didn't know that much. I knew that it did great things, but I didn't know exactly what those great things were. I ended up picking up his book Unlimited Power, which I got in a 3-box set, read through the book, and I used a couple techniques, and I was just like, oh my God, this stuff worked. It just worked. It just, from one moment to the next, I was like, things have just changed. And from that point, I started to look at it like, it was kind of like from my center point of view, like I was just thinking about how I can like do things to other people. It wasn't like, I was just like, I'm a magician now. I know how to do this stuff. I'm going to start learning more magic.
I think you told me it was the switch pattern that you used.
Yeah, switch pattern
in the beginning.
Yeah. So things just kind of evolved, but making that long story short, it just kind of went from there to trying to figure out how to put this stuff together. Actually, like, okay, yeah, I can do this to myself, and then what? How do I use this with other people? What do I intend to gain? But it was like a magical moment where I just took this and I'm like, I don't know exactly what I want to do with it, but this is something I want to really, really, really learn. I think this is something I can use as an effective tool out in the world instead of just being like philosophy, an internal tool. Doesn't really, well, it affects the outward. It's more of an internal thing. This is like an actual skill that I have. Philosophy is knowledge. This is a skill. I got to get away from just putting knowledge in my brain and how can I make sense in this world? So that's what NLP where it came along, and that's where everything started there. So
then you stumbled upon my videos around that time, 2021, I think.
Yeah, about that time. And honestly, I was intimidated looking at your stuff because I was like, ooh, conversational hypnosis. That's the expert level stuff. That's the stuff that's going to take. I was drawing lines in the sand of where I can't go before I even tried. So yes, I kind of looked at some of your stuff and I purchased some of your stuff, but I didn't like, just it's kind of like, okay, like a window shopper. Okay, I got this now, but it's just going to sit on the shelf for right now. Even though I was still motivated to learn it, I didn't really know how to learn it.
Okay, so far you knew about how to change a bit yourself with mental tricks, but you didn't know yet how to make others change in turn. Right. But you wanted to learn, right?
I wanted to figure it out. Yeah.
Okay. So the beginning was were you trying to use it at work? Were you trying on your people around you? Nothing.
That's the problem, is I didn't have a well-formed outcome. There's a lot of things that I've learned in the NLP hypnosis community that have enabled me to funnel it to something that's going to work. At that time, I'm just like walking around in a new universe, pushing buttons and trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to use this for.
Okay, so the fast forward, you have also purchased my book. Thanks for that. And you have started to apply a few techniques here and there. And when was the change where you really started to become good? So you said the 30 days Covert program was part of it. How did that help in the process? And what was the tipping point where you started to make people change at least a little bit?
Well, I started to play around with that, and it kind of, I didn't realize that at the time how impactful it was. I'm like, oh, okay, this day we're learning this, and I'm getting a couple tools. Oh, I've heard about this stuff. Like, oh, these are embedded commands. Okay, well, let's start doing that. And then there was one of the days, and one of the first days was like a pacing and leading day, but it didn't say pacing and leading. But I'm like, yeah, that's pacing and leading. Started writing out those language patterns for like a week or so, and then I could see myself using them. Basically, like where it really clicked when I started working with the 30 days to master covert hypnosis was that it was a day, and I'm not going to reveal the day. I mean, I could reveal the day, but it was a very magical day that you have in that you say to go out and do something with everything that is already in your pocket.
Is it the one in the third week? I think it is one in the third week. Maybe
the
not
second or third week, one of the two. But you tell me to tell the person just to go out and
I think I see which one it is.
Yeah, and just do it. And it was pretty amazing because you go out and you hold one thing in your attention, and with no other tools, like not really focusing on everything you're learning in the course, just with what you have naturally. And things just magically happen, and I was like, huh.
So wait, what did you do that day? Can you remember what you did? Like, was it a colleague you used it on, or?
It was a coworker. They were afraid to they thought they had social anxiety, and I'm like, I just started asking them questions about like I just started asking questions about how do you know you have social anxiety? Do you have it in other places, or is it just here? Oh, it's just here. Okay, well then how's that social anxiety? And then I just started giving little stories and little analogies, metaphors, and at the end I saw this person light up saying, oh, I can do this. They were ready. It was just like, huh, did that just happen? I just took the person from not believing they could to now understanding that it's like, which is probably one of the stories I used, like riding a bike. And at first you fall down, but eventually you just don't even think about it. Just like driving here when you came to work today, you just got in the car and you probably don't remember most of the drive because that just, it's not important because you're just focused on where you're going. When you get there, and I like right there, I just completely went into like hypnotic mode and just completely forgot the reason for me saying that. But the idea was that you gave me a tool in that day that allowed me to go from here to there quickly. So now it was no longer, oh, I can't do covert hypnosis. It's just like, how do I make this better? So then, and I can say that course has so many days of different tools and pieces that if I was going into hypnosis right now, didn't know anything at all, probably the two things I would use from you is this course and your let's see, what is the
control or the
it's your one PDF. It's influencing through
oh
language.
yeah, oh,
That PDF.
it's such an old one.
It is, and it's wow, and it's so honestly, it's that between those two, just learning everything, and they're learning all the different adjectives, just everything.
That's even surprising that this one made any kind of impact, because it was not even something intended to give to my audience or anything. It was when I was trying to figure this out myself years and years ago. I had outlined all those things, and initially it was not written in English. So, but since I wanted to save time, I was just starting the business. I had like loads and loads of things to do at the same time. So I just paid a guy on Fiverr to translate it into English, and it was a disaster. And I tried as I could to reformulate, but it was so many pages that I just did whatever I could and just put it like that on YouTube. And okay, this is something to start learning, and I didn't even think it was that good. So, and you're not the first one to tell me that. So it's crazy how something I just did for myself years and years ago was valuable for others, whereas it was never the intention firsthand. But yeah, good news.
Yeah, it just the awareness verbs. Let's see, are they transformational verbs? Is that it? Like, or well,
Yeah, from the
yeah.
Milton model here.
Honestly, get yourself some index cards, cut them in half, write those words on them, and just sit there talking with those words, getting those words in your vocabulary, along with 30 days, and you're just gonna jump forward to the point where, and this is me looking backwards at what I could have done if I did that. But if I were giving somebody else advice based on my model of the world, start there, get all that stuff into your brain as much as possible, see what happens, then see what your sticking points are. But that course has so many different ways to build things. You also give roadmaps onto how to tell hypnotic stories. You give basic templates to do that, which once you learn those, then those templates start to fade away, and you just understand what you're trying to accomplish. You understand the points of the different points of the conversation in hypnotic language, how to build that, and it really brings things together in a way that, keep in mind, it's a kind of an entry level from beginner to I wouldn't call it beginner to advanced, but it's a beginner to now you have a tool set course. I believe that that's how I look at that. When you really get a good picture of what you're trying to do. So at that point, you can take that and then go to your other courses. So just focusing on those things, that's how I perceive things. And I think that it's a beautiful course. It's probably, thinking about it, it's probably my favorite course overall for how it impacted me. There's some other sleight of mouth ones that are pretty amazing too.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, this one had a bigger change on yourself. Yeah. Can you describe rapidly the story? I'm not sure which one specifically, but you told me one time that you not hypnotized, but gave some help to a colleague of you at work, a woman, and that she messaged you later and she felt a huge change, but you didn't understand what you did or something, and you were worried about what exactly did I do or something like that. Do you remember which story it was?
Let's see here.
Like 8 or 9 months ago, it was like, oh, maybe
Yeah.
6 months ago. It was not recent. I know that you had more recent ones, but like the ones 6 or 7 months ago where you didn't understand what you did. And I said, you just built rapport effectively because she started to crack down or something like this. Yeah.
Oh,
Rings a bell.
yeah. That was actually using a different, I was using a regression.
Yeah. From Igor, the one from Igor you learned.
Yeah. That was using a regression, but it was an interesting thing. I basically did a regression. Girl was crying. I couldn't get her to do the other type of change work that I had. This was in public. This was not in a therapy session. She's freaking out. She's crying. I couldn't get her to calm down. The emotion was so strong that I couldn't get her to, in the state I needed her to be in, to do the other change work. So I did this, did a certain symbolic regression on her. And I basically was sitting there looking at her afterwards, like, I'm so afraid that I hope I didn't put this person in a pit of despair. Oh my, and she's shaking. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like looking at her. I'm completely calm and still. And I just said, okay, well, we're done for today. She's like, I stopped crying though, but I don't know why I'm shaking. And I'm like, oh man. I walked away. And as soon as me and her both stood up and we started walking away, I started shaking. And I was just, I was paranoid. I didn't know what was going on. And I honestly thought I made a mistake, but I had this conversation with this person named Mateo, and Mateo filled me in that it was that my rapport. Yeah, I had been in such rapport with her that I was just like, I was taking on in a certain way some of that emotion. She was bleeding out that emotion. It was coming out of her and it was coming into me. And I've actually, in the past week, I had a practice partner do a regression on me. And it was like the next day, it was like just one of those horror movies where like demons start coming out of somebody. That's what I felt like. It's an interesting thing, but after that happens, it's an amazing feeling. it
and I had told you also that the shaking was more release. So there's
yes.
nothing to be scared of, because it is just people who have been holding something for a long time that they start releasing. And if they have never released anything for years and years, they may be shaking, but it's nothing like bad. It's just a release. And the fact that you shook was shaking too, either because you were just mimicking her unconsciously, or because you were putting pressure on yourself too for what did I do wrong. And maybe when you realize it was fine, well, there was shaking too. But yeah, I'm not saying that also for any person listening. There is nothing wrong, nothing like you did nothing bad. If people shake or you shake, it's just a release. How the body processes all the stress, how the body evacuates all the stress. So that's completely normal.
Yep. Yeah.
And more recently, I think you had other ones. More like, can you share like a success story, recent success story about that?
Recently, I just got a message. It was this last week. I had a message from somebody that I talked to, had a phone conversation with 6 months ago, and I know I was doing things, and I don't remember anything I did. I can't remember the conversation at all. It was what they call hypnotic amnesia for the hypnotist, because my mind just went to the desired outcome, and I don't know what I said. I wasn't there spitting out hypnotic language, but months later, this was probably February, and now we're in July, and months later, I got a message from this person, said, I don't know what you did. I don't know how you did it, but thank you. I want to learn how to do some of the stuff that you do. So it's kind of weird, because I'm not always aware of what I do. Any longer. There's certain people that I build rapport with, and I don't really understand how I create that bond. And because I've been able to make my unconscious mind just let this stuff come out in the right time, in the right place. And that is a lot of that is the one, let's see, it's intrinsic, implicit.
Implicit
Learning that you get when you work with stuff like this, when you work with that mastering your covert hypnosis in 30 days, when you do the exercises, when you listen to, and I didn't say anything about this either, you have some of the most simple hypnotic tracks in there that are so effective, because they're basically hypnosis, NLP techniques, just short 5-6 minutes. You can do them over and over again. And I noticed changes in that. There's a lot of implicit learning just when you do that, when you listen to those few tracks, and the shifts, the mapping across, the disassociation from the problems, and they're real small, real simple. But that leads into what I was able to do with that one person, because I don't know what I did. She doesn't know what I did, but yet there it is.
But it works. Yeah. Beautiful thing, but it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So leading from that, with the hypnotic tracks, we don't need actually to make the whole Sleight of Mouth one overview, but just the thing you said about the hypnotic track in that one. So in the latest Sleight of Mouth course, you mentioned about the hypnotic track. Something in there, I think, that I said that I didn't remember saying, but
so all of your Sleight of Mouth courses, they're all slightly different, and I think all of them are great. There's something to be had from every single one of them. The Encyclopedia is the most complete, and I'm still going through that and learning.
Okay. Not done yet.
Like, honestly, after me and you had a conversation a couple days ago about projection.
Yeah.
And it hit me like a ton of bricks Friday or yesterday. I don't remember what day it was. Projection, model of the world. That's what it's about. That's what projection, model of the world, is about. Controlling your projections and controlling the other person's projections. It's about showing the other person that what they're saying is a projection. It's about proving that, and then how can we use this in a way that's productive towards the outcome. So that's the learning there. But back to your question. So that's why I keep learning something every time I go through it. It's like every time I go through it, something else hits me. But the hypnotic track has just allowed me, there's never been any kind of hypnotic track for that purpose. I think you've had a couple that have helped in the past, a couple like mini hypnotic tracks or hypnotic meditations, but this one, I think it's like 15 minutes long. You say to
around that,
2 weeks. And I did it for 2 weeks. And then anytime I have a situation where I perform less than what I wanted to, less than the way I like my ideal situation would have been, you can't always control the situation. You can't control both ends. But when I feel like I didn't perform well on my end, I go into that hypnotic track, listen to it, and it leaves me with new skills afterwards. It also, there's only one real thing I remember from that track. It's like imprinted in my brain, and it's lose the childish desire to have to win an argument. That's not what it's about. You're not trying to win an argument. I wouldn't even call it a win-win. It's about getting towards your desired outcome. Your desired outcome sometimes is just to have peace and get the other person to shut up.
Yeah.
A lot of like, one of the people that I have the most trouble with arguing are like he argues with me all the time. And yesterday, like his big boss was in. He's like, "Oh man, I argue with this. I argue with him all the time, and it's not even about that. I just don't want to deal with the bullshit." And I look at him and I say, "That's exactly how I feel with you." So now I just used his situation as a metaphor to show him what I deal with him, because he's dealing with it.
Holy shit! And what did he reply to that?
He won't reply to something like that. But you can't unhear what you hear. So when you hear something, it sticks. And I've been able to. I feel like I could just argue with anybody, and regardless, like if me and you went at it, which you're 10 times better than me, I feel like I could walk away from the situation not feeling like I was defeated. I don't think I could beat you, but I could walk away feeling like I wasn't defeated. So that's where I'm at now. The nice side effect of that track is sometimes when I listen to it, and it's nice, sometimes when I listen to it, I don't come out of trance. I lay there for another 45 minutes in just like a self-hypnotic state. And my brain starts going places, and they're good places, but that little track, it's a really good one. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
But no, it's okay. It was all I wanted to get from this one, because it was funny for me because the childish thing. So yeah, some place in the track I say you're not the child that's trying to win by all means or something like that, because too many people, when they argue, they think arguing is about just proving others wrong. And arguing to me is more about immersing yourself into the matter of the world of the person in front of you, figuring out where it is stuck, and also then making a decision: do I really want to unstuck that? Is it even worth it? Because some people are just unworthy. My perception is some people are even unworthy of my time and my energy to get them unstuck, or to show them there is another version of reality than what they believe. But I will only engage into that with people I deem worthy of hearing from me, and that I can have a conversation with. Too many people think the other way around. No, I got to prove everyone. And that's a childish attitude. So the thing I said in that track, is you're not a child anymore trying to prove others wrong. But the thing is, since I improvised my hypnotic tracks, I didn't even remember having said that until you pointed out last time. And I was like, did I really say that? Then I listened again, and then I was like, oh yeah, I said that. But yeah, not forgotten.
See, you know about the hypnotic amnesia too.
Exactly. That always happens still after 10 years, for sure. Okay, we can wrap up here for the call, but then you and I keep talking.
Yep, absolutely.